Hey, my name is Rabbi Jeremy Marquise, and this is the Rabbi's Manual. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about a tool that I'm using in my rabbinate called Airtable. It's a table mixed with a database. You can see their sort of tagline, spreadsheet meet database. It really allows you to use the power of databases where data can sort of communicate back and forth so that you can take advantage of all of the information that is allowed to be pulled out of that. On their website, you can see here that you can use it to really organize all sorts of different kinds of things using different types of data, whether it's pictures or dates or toggles of yes, no, checked, unchecked. You can see sort of in this grid view all sorts of ways you can categorize things, all sorts of things that are really valuable. Here you can see that data is interconnected. And all sorts of things is connected with other apps that you might use. So when you log in, you get these workspaces, and I chose whatever I chose sort of for it to populate different types of bases, which is what they call their sort of isolated databases. I've created this event management one today for us to look at, and in another video I will show you how to build that line by line. So here is the Airtable that I've made for today. It is some version of what I use simplified so that you can sort of imagine what it might look like and then adapt it for your usages. As I organize my work, I organize it first by project and then by event and then by encounter, meaning to say wherever you see attendance, that is an encounter with a human being. And so I count those encounters up, I put them inside of events are inside projects. So that's sort of how I organize it. You don't have to organize it that way, but that's how I function. So here on this screen, you can see a one view. Under this little tab here, you can see that there are other types of views. I made an active projects one, which we'll look at in a second. And each view is customizable, but the data is the same. So in this view, you can see the name of a project, and each symbol here tells you what type of data it is. So in this case, it is inputted data. Here, this is a toggle. This one means that it's connected to one of these other tables. This curly Q snail-looking thing is called a roll-up, and it pulls data from, sort of collects and pulls data from another place. This is a count function. And these sort of tag you to a different table. Anytime you see one of these blue-gray outlines around a piece of information, it means that it actually lives somewhere else. For example, these people live in this people tab, and this email is attached to those people and pulled from that location. In fact, almost everything you're seeing here is pulled from another location. So I organized this by project, and I have sorted them first by active, and then by project. And you can sort it any way that works best for you. And really, it's as simple as just Xing them out, and it resorts them. So I'm going to go back and do it by active, change it so that it shows the checked ones first, and then I'm going to sort it by project, which it really means alphabetically. And that's how that's done, really, really easy. And keeping sorted means that if I turn it off, I can add a bunch of information, click that button, and it'll resort it automatically. So under each project, there are events. When I add an event, which is in this tab, I assign it a project, and that project automatically shows up in the projects tab. Now here you can see a jumble of information, and if I expand this out, you can see they all sort of look the same. That's because I've created a function here, and it looks more complicated than it is. That function adds the information, which is the name of the project, colon, the name of the event, and then the date as formatted the way that I like. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the way I like to do it. Helps sort of make each event a unique piece, uniquely named piece of information. For each event, I have a project, as I said, an event name, a date and a time. Attendance for events that have occurred. Today is July 2nd, 2019, at least when I'm recording this. And you can see that everything before now I have placed a piece of information. Now, I'll be clear that all of this information is fake. I made it so that you would be able to see something where it has some sort of content. In this case, I've added a location, but you could add all sorts of different kinds of data. Here, the A is a single line piece of text, but you could add an attachment, which is a flyer or an image or a document of some kind, checkbox, a multiple select, which is what this looks like. You can select one of these. A multiple select means that you can select more than one at a time, which might be advantageous, or a single select. You can do all sorts of this data here, and these bottom ones, formula, rollup, count, and lookup, help you better connect with these other pieces of information. Link to another record is how you would add information from one of these other tabs. We're not going to do that now, and you can see we're just going to very easily delete this field, and it's gone. I have, in projects, created a column for responsible person. You can see that actually those responsible people exist here in this list, and you can see it's sorted by last name. And I've added myself here just so that you could see it, and you can see that I've added fake emails. This one is real. You should feel free to email me all you want. I've created a role column for them, and as you attach them to events and projects, in this case projects, these two things will populate. I've added, if in the case of a congregation or something like that, a membership toggle, which might be useful for you. You might decide you only want to filter to talk to non-members, if that's the case. So this is the way I've organized it. I like to focus specifically on people who are volunteering, as opposed to using this as a membership system. Could you use this as a membership system? I believe you can. The next thing I want to show you is the different views. Now, each view has exactly the same data, but you can hide it. So in active projects, I use this group functionality to sort active to inactive. So if I remove this, you can see it goes back to what it was. And I'm going to pick a field to group by. I'm going to do it by active. I'm going to sort it by checked first. And you can see Lunch and Learns might be done for the year, and I'm going to close them. And now I'm only going to focus on my active projects. You might decide to do it a different way with a different view. Now you can see some of that information is missing. I generally hide the list of events that will show up because I don't find it super useful, and hopefully there are lots of them. So I hide that one. And because I don't really need the email here, which is pulled from where it is in the People tab, I usually get rid of that as well. What I'm left with is the total amount of attendance using this roll-up functionality, and a count of all of the events. You can see I have 3 total introductions to Judaisms, and here are the various volunteers. If I wanted to create a new project, it would be just as simple as that. So I'm going to do that right now. You can see since I put it in the active portion, it automatically updated it. This is going to be part of my Parsha class, right? Hit enter. It's now a new project. I'm going to assign it to myself. You can see all I have to do is type the first letter of my name, or I can hit the plus. You see every person on here, but I really only want to assign it to myself. And I'm going to assign it to Manny Billings, who loves to volunteer for speakers and lectures, and he decided he wanted to help me run this Parsha class. Now, if I look under myself, under projects, volunteer projects, I'm not going to show up because it's not in the volunteer tab. But if I look in Manny's, which is right here, Parsha class is already there and updated. And you can see here in the projects responsible for, it's also there. So now we're going to create an event. Now I don't have a lot of views here. I like to use past and future. I also like to divide it by week and by month by adding using different functions and different columns to do that, but that's for another video. Really what we're going to do is we're going to add an event. So we're going to add an event, and it's already going to want to make you move it. You see record moved. That's because this keep sorted thing is here. If I'm going to uncheck it for the moment, I'm going to just tab it. I'm going to assign this to Parsha class. You can see that there are lots of things I could assign it to, but I'm going to assign it to Parsha class. And this week's Parsha is Korach. It happens to be at this particular moment. And I'm going to assign it, that's today, but I'm going to assign this class for Thursday at 5 p.m. It happens to be just about 5 right now. And the class is going to take place in our Schwartz library. Now this isn't a real library at my real congregation, but the kind of a thing that you might find in your congregation. Now this event hasn't occurred yet. So it doesn't have an attendance. Now I'm going to go back to sort and keep sorted. And you can see it's automatically moved to right here, which is pretty amazing. It's really that simple. And you can see under projects, there's now an event. And if we were to add attendance, just as an example here, we're going to add 10. You can see that the attendance here has added 10. That means every time I add a new event, it can be there. Now, one of the advantages of doing it this way is you can use the duplicate record function, which means I can just do that. I can change this to something else, right? So we can go back. Last week was shlach, right? I'm going to change it to last week on Thursday, 5 p.m. Automatically sorts it, and there were 10 people there. And you can see now in the projects tab there are 2, and because only one of them has numbers, the attendance is like that. It's really that simple. One of the things that I add is fiscal year. Because I've been using this for enough time, I find that very advantageous. Now, I could do that as a single select where I create options, right? 2018, 2019, and 2019, 2020. That's one option, and it's really that simple. So all of these happened in the previous fiscal year. So it's as simple as doing it like that. These are in the new fiscal year. So that might be one option. I can also change this from to single line text. And you can see it'll actually prompt me to say, hey, you're going to change this type. We're going to say yes in this case, and it automatically changes it to text, which might be what I want if I want to type it in instead. I like to do it this way because when I group it, I can then group it by fiscal year. So when you don't have one, it's just empty. So I'm going to close that. But you can imagine here how convenient that is. Using different functions, you can add month and year based on the date, which I can show you another time. But here you can see the power of doing this, and that really only took me a few moments. So I'm going to undo this here. You may decide you don't want that all the time. So you could actually just make a new view. It duplicates it. We could say by fiscal year. This one is going to group by fiscal year. And so now you have a view by fiscal year when you want it, but instead you can use this main view. You can see these events here showed up at the top because they don't have any information. We're going to delete them. And so here you can see how dynamic this is about collecting information. One of the things that I've done in the last year is I had over 150 events, over 2,800 encounters, and I know that because I've been able to record that information in a tool like this. And so I think this tool is incredibly powerful. It has been useful for us, and in our congregation, more and more of us are using tools like this. You can add collaborators and other partners and teammates. You can pay. This is just what you can do with the free tools, but you can have collaborators who can comment and add and edit the information yourself. You can add more information here to the people, which we haven't spent much time on. Here we've added emails, but you could, if we insert to the left here, a phone number, right, instead. We're going to go ahead and delete this here. And you can see in people, I have other views. I have it by role here, which has categorized it by various roles. And here I've also by volunteers only. I've used this filter function where it is board or volunteer. And it's that. Now, instead of this, I could, where now I have everyone, I could add this filter where the role is not staff. It does exactly the same thing with fewer steps. I might decide under people, I want a new view here. I could say members versus non-members. Not like it's a competition, but maybe we want to group things that way. So we're going to group this by member, where the members are on top. And we're actually going to filter out the staff because the truth is they play their own role. And so now we have a member to a non-member category. We did it just like that. So you can see already the power of these tools. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can email me, and I'm going to even show you my email here again. Please email me. We're going to do a couple more tutorials on this subject so that you can take advantage of this powerful tool. Thank you so much for taking the time, and good luck.